Okay, this is going to be a video on changing the spark plugs for an INFINITI QX80. This happens to be a 2016 model. But take a look with me here. So what we're going to do is we're going to change out the spark plugs. Now, INFINITI recommends that you change these spark plugs every 105,000 miles. So this little piece of paper here is kind of just my sloppy notes. But so 105,000 mile interval. And the OEM factory plug is an NGK, you see that there, DILCAR 7B11. That's the number that's spec'd out in the INFINITI service manual. But NGK knows that as a number 1406. Okay, so if you're going to an auto parts store, NGK number 1406 will get you a laser Iridium High Ignitability spark plug. Looking them up online, they're about $26 each, right? Times 8 for this V8 engine. But there's another plug that you can get, a more modern plug, and it is a Ruthenium HX High Ignitability plug. And that's its number there. Its official number is an LCAR 7A HX-S is what that is. That's not a 5, that's an S. But it's also known as an NGK 92274. Now, the reason you might want to know that is because Ruthenium is, according to NGK, it's kind of the next step up, the next better plug. They're also about $8 compared to $26 for the laser Iridium. So a little bit weird that a better plug is much less expensive. But NGK's manufacturer, I trust them when they say that. So I chose to use the Ruthenium HX High Ignitability plugs for this change. Now I've got like 98,000 miles on my INFINITI. And so here's the gap. You won't need to gap the plugs though. They come ready for you. If you want to know what the torque is, so it's a 12 millimeter bolt. Looks like these are aluminum heads. But the torque spec is 10.8 pound-feet to 14.5 pound-feet for an aluminum head and 10.8 to 18 for a steel head. The head is the part of the engine that your spark plug screws into, if you're not aware. But I guess the kind of the easy deal is there. If you do 13, 14 pound-feet, you'll be within spec no matter what kind of head you have. So that's good to know. All right, so with the technical specs out of the way, let me get into a little bit more how do you do this. Now, I'm kind of expecting you to know a few things, and I'm not going to walk through every minor detail, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do. So there's this engine cover that's going to be on the top of the motor when you start, and there are, let's see here, up on top you can see these holes here. There's two bolts, number 10 millimeters, that you'll need to pull out there, and that'll allow you to lift this up and look underneath. And now you see these guys, this one here and then that one there. Those are also 10 millimeter. You won't be able to pull this thing off the engine without getting those. So it's kind of weird. You kind of got to, when you're on the motor, you kind of got to lift it up after you pull those top two out, then reach underneath and get those. But they are sort of captive on there, so you can kind of leave them in place. But that's, and then of course that's their mounting spots there, right? That's the top two, and then those are the two that are underneath. Okay, so you get the cover off of there, and I guess it depends on how you feel. If you want easy part first, definitely want to do the passenger side. Let me grab my light. You see the passenger side is pretty wide open. Right there where the light is shining on and behind the yellow dipstick, that's the first, or that's a cylinder number 2's coil pack. And then there's another coil pack. Let's see if I can, okay, that's the coil pack. So they have a connector on it. So you push down on the little tab and then you can pull out and you can disconnect that connector. You'll need to do that in order to get the coil packs out. And then that little 10 millimeter nut, you'll need to take those out to release the coil. You do that on on each of them, right? And I would really recommend do this one at a time. That way the coil goes back on the one you took off, and you remember to hook the connector on, and that's the best way to do it. Methodical and slow, one at a time. So that's what you do. Now you should also notice the two back cylinders, right? So that's 5, 6, 7, and 8. Notice how there's an F on there. Can I get that? So there's an F on that one, and there's an F on the next one. So the back two are different than the front two. So you want to keep that in mind. Another good reason to just do them one at a time. And so, but this side's pretty easy to get at. You just push in the little tab on the connector, pull it off. That should be your first step. Second step is to pull that 10mm little nut there. Then you can slide the coil pack out. If you loosen the nut first, it just makes it harder to pull the connector off because the coil will be loose and flopping around while you're pulling on it. Now this number 2, this was the first one I did because I did this side first. I did also find it was a little bit easier to push down and take this connector off. It got this coil this loom out of my way. And then there's also a, darn it, I wish I had 5 hands. On these 2 small wires, right where my light's really focused at, there's a wire tie there. I cut that so that I had a little bit more flexibility on that to get it out of the way. It helped me be able to get the coil out of there and that little bolt off the coil. So that was something I did on this side, was cutting that wire tie and disconnecting that connector at first. But so after you got that side done, if you want to start there, it is the easy side. Now, this is driver's side of the vehicle, and it's a lot more involved. I mean, it's the same process, but there's more stuff in the way. So I went ahead and popped the top of the air cleaner box off to get it out of the way. And then there's a number of wire ties in here that I cut. One of them is, there's one right here. Actually, this one can be released. It's got a little tab on it that you actually lift up, and then you can pull this guy apart. I wish I could see that better, but yeah, so there's a tab right here that it's got some numbers on it. You can lift up that tab and then get this to pull out backwards like this here. And then that'll allow that one to come loose. And then I think there was, like in here, there was a wire tie cut, and then there was a couple more, 2 more back there that I cut, because this big harness goes right over the top of your coil packs, and you'll need to be able to flex it out of the way. And so cutting those ties was important. You can try to put those ties back when you're done. Probably wouldn't be a huge deal if you didn't, but I would. So that's kind of what you do there. Getting the air cleaner off is simple, right? You're just loosening up a little bolt there, snapping off these little snaps, and then this cover comes off and kind of out of the way. Although this hose is right here attached into the back side of this air cleaner here, and so I did have to release that to get it folded out of the way. And then there's this hose that connects here. This guy, I disconnected it to get him out of the way. And then there's this larger hose here. Can I show you that? See this guy that ends there? He was connected down there to that pipe that's got nothing on it. And that was just to kind of release its clamp. Both of those have clamps that are like this one. And pull those hoses out of the way just to have some more room to work. So that's kind of really what you're going to be up against. And then it's the same process. Remove that little bolt on the coil. Let's see, where am I at here? Oh, there we go. So now you can see that coil pack, the lights on and its thing. So just get all those out, same process. Now, when you pull the coil pack out, right, it's gonna look like this, right? This is the coil pack. And it's got these little deals on, and that goes into the top of the spark plug there. Once you pull those out, then you need a 14mm socket to turn the spark plug. And you're going to need pretty healthy, long extension to get down in there. And then you can break those loose, pull them out. Now, if you don't have a spark plug, you know, the sockets that are made for spark plugs have a little rubber gasket up inside of them. I didn't have that in a 14. I've got a few, but not in a 14. So I just use a regular socket, long socket, and then I use a magnet here, and I just stuck the magnet down in there, and when it connected to the top, the electrode part of the spark plug, it attached on, and then I pulled spark plug out. Now to get the spark plug back in, I attached a little hose just to the end of the electrode. I'll show you that in a minute. And then I was able to slide the spark plug down in there, nice controlled, right? You only want to drop it down in there and bang the end of that electrode. But with the hose on there, and then I could very gently twist the hose and thread the spark plug in. And once when it's threaded in as much as I can turn with the hose, I can just pull this hose off. And now my spark plug's down in there. It's been carefully started. Let's see, can I see this spark plug? I can see it with my eyes. I'm trying to figure out how to make this camera work. There you go. You can sort of see down the hole there. But spark plug's down in there now. And anyway, and then I can put my socket with my 14 millimeter wrench back down in the hole. Get on that. Get on the spark plug, and then I'll be able to torque it down to. I'm set my torque wrench at 13 foot-pounds, kind of figuring that I'll be real careful, and but I'm likely to hit 14 or 15. So that's the process, and then I'll just do that right down the line. And this definitely is a little more involved on this side, but it's not that big of a job. If you're done this kind of thing before, this will be no problem for you. It'll probably save you a bunch of money versus a dealer, and you'll know that it's right and they use the plug you decided to use. So anyway, hopefully this video is helpful.